Following the wide outrage by Nigerians over former governor of Zamfara State, Ahmad Yerima's advice to the federal government to negotiate with bandits as a means to addressing the lingering security situation, especially in the northwest region of the country, Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security expert, says the issue of negotiations can only be brought to the front burner if it is in line with global best practices. The report.
Over the years, the task of safeguarding lives and property across the country has become daunting to the federal and state governments of Nigeria, as well as security agencies. In the northwest and north-central regions, for example, heightened violence and insecurity have become an existential threat to many. Reported security trends show the regions experienced 65% of the total security incidents in Nigeria in the first quarter of 2022, with 2,331 fatalities. Much credence goes to the operations of armed bandits in these regions. Banditry in Nigeria, which has become a catch-all term for armed rural gangs that rustle cattle, kidnap, loot and extort villages, has become a thriving industry, with kidnapping alone bringing in millions of dollars each year. In just the last 3 months of 2022, 1,090 abductions were recorded in Zamfara State alone. No wonder Ahmad Yerima, a former governor in the state, very recently suggested negotiating with these non-state actors to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a means of dousing tensions in the troubled region, garnering widespread criticisms from a lot of Nigerians. According to Dr. Kabir, a security expert in an exclusive phone interview with Clearview News Desk, negotiations with bandits should be the last resort for any government. However, considerations can be made for certain groups in line with global practices. He then moves on to explain the DDR mechanism, a globally recognized practice for handling issues of terrorism.
We can't use one generic term to describe the threat elements that we have in the Northeast. And so when a political leader comes up and say we should engage or negotiate with gunmen or bandits in the Northwest, I worry because as a security specialist who monitors development, I know that there are different categories of gunmen and threat elements within the Northwest. Now, for some of these categories, yes, negotiation or amnesty, I would say, should remain an option. For others, there is no sane country that would advocate negotiation or amnesty with them. And so I'll quickly kind of describe to you the categories of gunmen that I think sometimes political leaders and the media generalize as bandits. Now you have the criminals who have embraced committing offenses. They've taken guns, they are attacking communities, they are raping women, they are pillaging these communities, they are collecting levies from them. They are pure criminals and they've committed every act of atrocity that you can think of. For this first category, the pure criminals, I think the best approach to dealing with them is using the strong arm of the law. The second element would be ethnic militias. Now, these are people who have felt threatened over time as a result of the criminality that is ongoing on. So as an example, the Fulanis, most times we tend to forget that they are also victims of this first group that I've mentioned because they are in the bush, they are in the forest. When this first group, the criminals, started their activities, including cattle rustling, the first group they went after were the Fulanis, stealing their cattle. And then sadly, when the Fulanis go to the police to seek protection, an extortion cycle started. So for this second group, the ethnic militias who armed themselves just to protect themselves because the state could not protect them, yes, I think I would advocate negotiation. I would advocate sitting down with them and then going through the DDR process, that is demobilization, disarmament, and then rehabilitation. It's a well-structured process, the DDR process, but not just negotiation. It has to be this three-pronged process that I mentioned. Now, the third group are the farmer-herder violence. So different from the first and second group. there are farmers, there are herders, and there have been violence between them. Now, each side uh, sought to protect itself. The farmers created vigilantes, and then the herders created the militias. Now, these ones too, we can put them through the DDR process, engage with them, demobilize them, collect their weaponry, protect them, and then rehabilitate them. It's possible. Then the last group are the ones that we call the terrorist groups. These are the ones that have linkages with some global terrorist, movements such as Al Qaeda and then the Islamic State. Now, a good example would be some of the groups that are operational in parts of Niger, parts of Kaduna, and then parts of Zamfara state. These are pure terrorist groups. These ones too, just like the first ones, I will not advocate negotiating with them. They have to be dealt with using our counterterrorism measures, as well as all the available capabilities within the security sector.
Dr. Kabir also noted that peace and order can be restored back to Nigeria if the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration puts structured systems and strengthened collaborations in place.
I think the first thing the president should do is to issue a directive to especially the Office of the National Security Advisor to conduct a sociological investigation, research into the myriad of security challenges that are affecting the country. Now, each of them is different. What we have in the Northwest is different, and I've given you an indication, there are different threat elements, and each of them require a different approach. So only a study that identifies who, what, when, where, how of the threat element will now give a picture of what the challenge is and then how to address the challenge. The second component is working with the security agencies. Once the Office of National Security Advisor comes up with that sociological report, the president should now task the entire security structure. Sometimes we tend to focus on the military, but no, I'm an advocate of working with all the different security organizations. There are 29 of them, and each of them is important. We cannot overemphasize the importance of one over the other. The military cannot supersede the other. So I'm hoping the president, he's been talking about collaboration. I'm hoping he sees it from that light. Third point is there are security bodies that under the past administration were not functional. I would advise the president to make them as functional as possible. An example is the National Security Council, National Police Council, the National State Council, all of that. All of these councils are very important in security. Lastly, is to get the buy-in of Nigerians, and I'm happy to note that that is part of his manifesto, in the Renewed Hope manifesto that he released to Nigerians during the campaign, that one of the things stated under security is that they intend to win the hearts and minds of Nigerians. Now, one of the best ways to do that is through engagement, through strategic communication. So hopefully, by the time he appoints his Minister of Communication, appoints the leadership of National Orientation Agency, and then, of course, the various leadership of the government-run media departments, they will understand the importance of this strategic communication and engage with Nigerians, engage with the media, and encourage all the security organizations to also engage with the media, so that through this type of engagement, they'll be able to carry Nigerians along and then win the hearts and minds of Nigerians.
More than 453,000 people in the Northwest have been driven off their land by the insecurity. There are believed to be as many as 30,000 outlaws operating in more than 100 gangs in the Northwest, with the largest able to field as many as 2,000 fighters, roughly the size of 2 Nigerian army battalions. Over the years, governments have adopted numerous military and other non-military strategies to stamp out banditry, but the increasing activity and violence of the groups indicates that the government's efforts have failed to achieve the desired results. Dr. Kabir is confident that if these systems are put in place, Nigeria could be on her way to healing and victory.